The world has gone insane, and people are now just swallowing handfuls of Tylenol just to, I guess, prove Donald Trump wrong or what. I don't know what it is. It's just it's a lack of sanity. I think we have one person now in the hospital. She was making one of these videos. She was pregnant. She swallowed a handful, and now she's on a ventilator. Tylenol, we all know this. It's good for you to some degree, too much, and it's really, really bad for you. And I don't understand. I do not believe that the NIH director was ever saying, it's bad, it's evil, and you can't ever take it. No, it was a recommendation, and we can find out now because Dr. Jay Bhattacharya is with us now. Doctor, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Glenn. So good to be on the show with you. Really honored by the invitation.
Oh, you're doing a fabulous job. You really are, and I can't thank you enough. Can you please sort through this madness on Tylenol?
Well, first of all, what you started with, it's absolutely heartbreaking. If you're listening, don't overdose. Don't take too much Tylenol. I mean, it's well known to cause liver toxicities if you overdose. If you're not pregnant and you have a headache or you have a fever, it's fine. Just take it at the right dose. Don't overdo it. And certainly don't overdo it to make some ridiculous political point. It's just heartbreaking to hear that story of someone whose liver failed because of some crazy politics. The key thing that we found that led to the announcement is that there's been a whole sort of range of research in recent years that establishes that there's this association between taking Tylenol late in pregnancy and subsequent neurodevelopmental conditions like autism, like ADHD. There's a big fight in the literature over how strong that association is, right? So some people think it's really strong, and other people think it's less strong. In my review of the literature, I thought that there's enough there to tell people, especially pregnant women, to be careful with it. If you have a high fever and there's no other way to manage it, then yeah, you should, with the advice of your doctor, take some so that you can manage the fever, which itself is also bad for kids, and for moms. But if it's less harmful than that, if it's less serious than that, then avoid taking it because it's just good medicine. I believe I have an obligation when I see something in the scientific literature that people should know about to help them make decisions in their own lives, that I should be able to tell people with the caveats exactly what I've said. And that's exactly what we were doing in the last few days is to tell people, look, there is this literature. Most people I've talked with don't know about it. They don't realize that there is this.
I'm looking at a Reuters story from 2013. Too much Tylenol in pregnancy could affect development. Too much frequent use towards the end of pregnancy may be linked to poor language skills and behavior problems among children, according to a new study. I mean, this has not been a secret, and I don't understand why all of a sudden this is insane. Because did you ever intend on saying you cannot take it? We're banning it. Or were you just saying, hey, you should be careful of this. There are studies that show this. You should just be aware.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the latter, Glenn. We were aiming to tell moms, pregnant moms who were that there is this evidence, and so just be careful. Talk to your doctor before you take it. Even the Tylenol label says to be careful in pregnancy because there aren't great, like toxicology studies that were done in pregnant women before Tylenol was approved for the population at large. It's an over-the-counter drug. It has its uses, but be aware of when it's appropriate to use it, when it's not, and be judicious. That was what we were saying. I think the key thing here is it's something called Trump derangement syndrome, right? Yeah. So you had President Trump. I remember in 2020, President Trump said we should open schools. You remember that?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, all these groups that were before he said that in favor of opening schools somehow all of a sudden changed their mind in contradiction to what the scientific evidence was saying and said we should close schools. There's something very odd about how some people react to what President Trump. What President Trump said is a more charismatic version of what I just said. Right? He said, "Don't take it unless you need to take it." Unless you really need it. That's the sum and substance of what he said, and that's actually wise advice. If you're a pregnant woman, think carefully about whether you should take it, given this evidence. I mean, I don't want 5 years from now, after the scientific debate's been resolved, and maybe it turns out that it is actually directly linked to autism, for years of people taking it, thinking that we don't know, when you could just say now, do prudent medicine. Take it only if you really need it.
I just don't understand how this is twisted into something fascistic. There's a post from 2017 from Tylenol that's going viral right now. It says, "We actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today." A representative from the parent company said the statement was incomplete, but what was that about? Do you know? How long have we known about any potential problems?
Well, okay, so there's the issue here is that the company, the FDA, regulates what it can and can't say, right? So it's not allowed for pregnant women. It's not allowed to say that you can take it if you're pregnant, because they have never tested it on women formally in a way that satisfies the FDA. It's very difficult to do these kind of studies on pregnant women. You can just imagine, you recruit a whole bunch of women who are expecting, and then say, well, I'm going to randomize you and give some of you Tylenol and some of you placebo, and we'll see what happens. I mean, that kind of study would be pretty hard to organize and kind of unethical almost. And so they don't have any evidence on this. And so they're supposed to say, as they did in 2017, that we can't recommend pregnant women take it because they don't have evidence to document its safety to the satisfaction of the FDA. Now, the game played then is like doctors can tell you whatever they want. They're not limited by the FDA, which is appropriate, right? Doctors ought to be able to assess your individual situation and make recommendations. And so, again, that's essentially what we were saying to the public. If you really need it, talk to your doctor and decide, knowing now what the literature says. This is the president's announcement essentially was a form of informed consent for the whole public.
Yeah.
There's this literature. It's worth thinking about, even if all the uncertainties aren't resolved, and then be careful. Think about it when you need it, when you don't need it, in consultation with your doctor, especially if you're pregnant.
So let me, because I would imagine that when you guys decided to bring this out, it was like a Monday blip. It was just like, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and release this. And then it's turned into some nightmare. And you have other initiatives on how you're going to tackle the autism epidemic. What are you going to, I mean, this was Tylenol. What are you expecting and what's coming?
Glenn, it's so weird. I mean, I'm new to the DC, so I guess maybe I'm still learning. But like I thought the big news from this was that we were going to the NIH has just launched this massive autism data science initiative, where we've gotten a dozen research teams examining the question of 13 actually, but research teams examining the question of what is the cause of autism, and why has it risen so high in prevalence over coming years. These are mysteries to medical science. I don't know the full answer. It's going to be complicated, whatever it is. But we're finally starting to ask the questions in a way that's going to likely produce answers. I thought that was going to be the big news out of this. There was also a big announcement about this new treatment, that a lot of doctors have found effective for some, not all, but some kids who are profoundly autistic. In some cases, I've seen case reports where it's restored speech. It's a drug called leucovorin that's been used for 40 years. It's basically like it helps bring folate, a vitamin, into your brain, and the theory is that there's like folate deficiencies in some autistic kids in brain early in cognitive development. It's really exciting. We're telling people about this. The FDA is going to make a indication change so it's more widely available. CMS is going to make this so that Medicare, you can get it if you have Medicaid or other kinds of insurance. It could help a lot of families. I thought those were going to be the big pieces of news. Instead, we got this craziness over autism of Tylenol.
Do you think this was coordinated, or was just a bunch of mad people?
It's hard to, I don't know, Glenn. It strikes me that so many of the people that are sort of chiming in from the medical on the medical side in panic over this are the same people who pushed lockdowns and mask mandates and toddler masking and school closures and vaccine mandates and all the rest. Many of them turn out to have been Ukraine war experts and Gaza war experts and who knows what else. So it's striking that we have such a great expert class in this country. That can,
I keep coming back to this is what I want the FDA to do. If the National Institute of Health and the FDA, what I want them to do is make recommendations, follow the research, and then say, hey, we recommend this, we don't recommend this, you should know this, they should have to tell you that. I don't want them making decisions for me. I want my doctor to make the decisions. And this was the least autocratic thing I've seen in probably 20 years. And it was like Hitler himself made this declaration.
I mean, yeah, it's mind-boggling. Many of the same quote experts that have taken this in a hyperbolic way were absolutely fine when people were getting fired over the vaccine mandates. And there was no good science behind the recommendations about the vaccine mandates. The vaccine didn't stop you, COVID vaccine didn't stop you from getting or spreading COVID. So why the mandates? Like why? I think people need to just stop and take a breath and say, look, what is actually the evidence? I mean, I hope I conveyed it in a nuanced way. I'm not saying to you that I know for certain that this is a cause. There's a scientific debate going on, but I think that there's enough evidence in the scientific literature to warrant telling people, when you take it, here you should know about this. Why should we hide that from people?
Shouldn't.
Seems to be a very balanced approach. Talking to Jay Bhattacharya, Doctor, can you speak a little bit about the Swedish study that a lot of people have brought up? It's about 2.5 million kids. It said 1.33% chance of having autism without acetaminophen, 1.53% chance if you did have it during pregnancy. They did say that the effect disappeared when controlling for siblings. Is this just part of the tapestry of all the research you looked at? How do you view this data?
Yeah. So in fact, we mentioned it. I wrote an op-ed with Marty McCary and Mehmet Oz, and where we referenced this specific study, because this is a part of the literature that's more skeptical about the link, right? That's the big Swedish study. And as you said, Glenn, that if you just do a straightforward analysis of the 2.5 million moms, you find an increase in autism in the moms that were exposed to Tylenol. Now, the study wasn't good at measuring Tylenol use. I think only about 7% of the moms reported using Tylenol in the treatment arm. The 7% of the moms that reported using Tylenol. We know for a fact that that's underestimated. They were looking at electronic health records and other things. They didn't really get the over-the-counter use. So it does have some methodological issues. But the big thing with sibling studies are really interesting, because you think to yourself, if I compare. You have a mom, during birth number 1, she used Tylenol. During birth number 2, she didn't use Tylenol. And what if during birth number 1, the baby turns out to have autism, and birth number 2 didn't use Tylenol? That seems like strong evidence, right? Because you've adjusted for the same common family environment, the same similar genes, because it's two siblings, right? And it's a very attractive design, but it has problems, right? So first of all, you don't have 2.5 million moms that have siblings like this. What you have is a much smaller sample of what I would call what's called discordant siblings. So you have siblings, one who received Tylenol during the birth and one who didn't, right? That's a much smaller sample than the 2.5 million. You're not actually looking at 2.5 million. You're looking at as much. As if you have a smaller sample, it's harder to pick up any effect, right? You're not going to. You have to find a statistically significant effect, just statistically. Second, the group of moms who use it in one pregnancy, doesn't use it in another, are very different from the moms who use it in both pregnancies, or use it don't use it in either pregnancy, or who use it, only have one kid. Very, very different from each other. Now, I don't know that the results that you find because discordant siblings translates over to the other groups. Then third, this is probably most important. If you adjust away for the genetic differences and family sort of shared family environment differences, you might be adjusting away for the mechanism by which Tylenol actually causes autism, right? What you're doing, you're saying, oh, I'm narrowing it to like only a narrow set of differences between the siblings. Obviously, there's a shared genetic environment and a shared family environment. But what if the mechanism by which Tylenol use or latent pregnancy causes autism leads through the thing that you controlled away.
Right.
And you'll mask the true effect.
Jay, I would love to continue to do this. I've got a network break I have to hit. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thank you for being a part of the program. I appreciate it, and I hope we can talk again.
I'd love that, Glenn.
You bet.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, National Institute of Health. Fascinating.